Last year, the Toronto Raptors and Milwaukee Bucks faced off in the Eastern Conference Finals, in which the Toronto Raptors won 4 games in a row after going down 2-0 to take down the Bucks in 6. Now, as we head into the bubble, if these two teams were to play each other again, it seems as though, barring anything crazy happening, they would face off again in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, in the event that this happens, which team does this matchup favor? Who would come out on top in that series? Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Amateur Hour Sports. My name is Jacob Davis, talking about a potential Milwaukee Bucks and Toronto Raptors Eastern Conference Final rematch. If both teams are to get there, what would that series look like? I posted a video on Monday going through how a matchup between the Raptors and the Celtics would work, and it has quickly become my second most popular video on my growing channel. So I decided to give people more of what they want. If you want those matchup videos, I'll give you this one. We'll see how we like it. Both teams have changed since that 2019 Eastern Conference Final, where there were many close games in a series that could have gone either way. But as history goes, the Toronto Raptors came out on top and eventually won the NBA championship. But if a rematch were to happen, you know me, I'm going to give you my raw, honest-ass opinion on how this is going to go. Off the bat, this is a very closely contested series. I think this one goes basically the distance. It either goes 7 games or it maybe goes 6 games. And without a real home court advantage, I think that's even more likely to be the case. And it would help the Raptors a little bit, not having to deal with Milwaukee's home court advantage. It's just all about the basketball. And what worked last season for the Toronto Raptors in this series is the fact that they defended Giannis so well. I mean, you can only do so much against Giannis, but the Raptors did the most they could against Giannis Antetokounmpo. And he still got his points, but he struggled a little bit in the series being guarded by Kawhi Leonard. What they tried to do was funnel Giannis into a crowded paint where he couldn't get an easy shot. And if he kicked it out, those guys had their shot. If they hit it, they hit it. If they didn't, they didn't. And what was great for the Raptors, those guys were not hitting their shots. Chris Middleton was an absolute shadow of himself in the 2019 Eastern Conference Finals. Eric Bledsoe really forgot how to take a three-pointer, to be honest. Those guys were not hitting their shots. And the Raptors, in those close games, they had guys hitting their shots. They had Kawhi Leonard hitting their shots. Pascal Siakam was good in that series. Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet came absolutely alive to end off that series. The Raptors had the shooters that were hitting their shots, and that was the separation as the Raptors progressed. This season, I think that the Milwaukee Bucks are going to come out a little bit hungrier in this one. I think that taking what they learned and their experience from last season's loss to the Toronto Raptors, I mean, it wasn't a good look. They lost 4 games in a row after going up 2-0. Everybody and their moms thought that the series was over, but lo and behold, the Toronto Raptors come back and win. This season, I think that OG Anunoby is going to take that Kawhi Leonard role. We're going to be basically doing the exact same thing we did last season, doing the exact same thing to Giannis. I think Giannis has become a better player. He's also more of a perimeter threat than he was last year. So it won't be as easy to guard him. And as great of a defender OG Anunoby is, he is not Kawhi Leonard. He's going to do a great job, but there's only so much you can do against a Giannis, especially a Giannis that is going to start hitting his threes. If he does. If Giannis is hitting his threes, the Bucks may win in 6. If Giannis is not hitting his threes, but he's getting to the rim, still getting his points, it's still a very tough matchup for OG Anunoby, especially given the size differences between the two players. I think that the shooters for the Milwaukee Bucks, who have added a Wesley Matthews, who has been great this season, and George Hill has been fucking lights out from the perimeter over the course of this season. Last year wasn't great after he got traded to Milwaukee. Shot, I think, just above 30% from 3. This season, he leads the NBA in three-point percentage. 48% and takes 3 3-pointers a game. There are guys like him. Middleton is 50, 40, 90 this year, and I don't see him struggling for a second consecutive year in the playoffs. Wesley Matthews is hitting his shots. Bledsoe is, 34% from three. That's pretty good. Bledsoe's going to be a threat from the perimeter. There's a lot of weapons on the outside for the Bucks. And if these guys are hitting their shots, the Raptors have a bit of a problem. But what the Raptors are very good at, it seems like they're able to kind of get their doubles in, rotate really well, and still contest those shots. So it's not going to be open shots. It's not going to be open threes for guys like Wesley Matthews, George Hill, and Chris Middleton. But if they're knocking down shots and they're getting hot, the Raptors have a bit of a problem because Milwaukee are the only team in the NBA to have a better defensive rating than our Toronto Raptors. In what is arguably the two best coaches in the NBA going head-to-head, I would wager that they are the best two coaches in the NBA right now. Nick Nurse and Mike Budenholzer. It's gonna be a chess match on the fucking floor. It's gonna be a chess match on defense, how to solve the other team's offense. And Nick Nurse may have cracked the code last year, but it also helped that Milwaukee weren't shooting. So how are the Raptors really going to combat going up against this Milwaukee defense? Well, Pascal Siakam is obviously the threat for the Toronto Raptors. He's going to be guarded by Giannis. So that's going to be a tough matchup for Siakam, but Siakam's still going to get his points. I don't think he's going to be anything crazy or ridiculous in this series, but I think he's going to get just about his averages for this series, even though he's going up against Giannis. I think the Raptors move the ball well enough that they will force Milwaukee's rotation, and sometimes Siakam's going to get his look, and Siakam's just so talented of a player, he's going to get his points in. The other players on the court, Milwaukee do a great job as well in closing out on these guys. They're tremendous at closing out on the shooters, which the Raptors need to rely on. They're both very similar in how they conduct their defense. The Raptors are still going to be able to get their points because they move the ball so well. They're going to find the open guy, and there's a lot of lethal shooters for the Toronto Raptors as well. These are very two evenly matched teams. So that's why I think this goes a distance to 7 games, unless you got a Giannis who's nailing his threes consistently, in which I think it would go 6. I think this goes to 7, and I think it's a close series, but in the end, gotta be honest, I think the Bucks take down the Raptors in 7 if there's a matchup again this year. I think that when you look at the big shots, who they're going to come from, you're more likely to opt to go with Giannis. And why wouldn't you? He's the MVP. He's probably going to get the MVP again this season. Best player in the NBA currently, if you go by that. And when it comes to the big plays, I think Giannis is going to be able to just elevate the Bucks to get to that next level. And the fact that he's one of the best defenders in the league, he's a DPOY candidate every single year, and an MVP candidate. He's there on both ends of the floor. It's going to be difficult for the Raptors to do a lot of damage on the Milwaukee Bucks. When Giannis is on the floor for the Milwaukee Bucks, they have a defensive rating of just over 97 per 100 possessions. The NBA average is over 110 in defensive rating over 100 possessions. The Milwaukee Bucks are leaps and bounds the best defensive team when Giannis is on the floor. And in those little nitpicky games, those tight games, I think that having Giannis on the offense and having that insane defense is just going to slightly elevate the Bucks over the Toronto Raptors. It really pains me to say, but I think that unfortunately would be the fate in this series. But again, it's a close series. I lean maybe 60-40 towards the Bucks in the unbiased opinion I'm trying to give here. But I'm sure a lot of Raptors can understand how tremendous the Milwaukee Bucks have been this season. The best team in basketball, and with so many shooters placed in the perimeter for Giannis to drive and kick, I see it being a little bit too much for the Raptors to handle in a playoff series. But again, it's on the Bucks to hit their shots. If they go ice cold again in this series, then the Toronto Raptors can eat them up, because the Toronto Raptors are going to get their points. They're going to get their points still. Even though Milwaukee's defense is great, I just think in those close games, it's just going to favor the Milwaukee Bucks. But if the Raptors are still getting their points and Milwaukee aren't hitting their shots, and we can really hone in on Giannis, the Bucks have a problem. The Raptors win that series if that's the case. Because Giannis, if we can just focus everything on him, because we know Milwaukee's shooters aren't actually hitting their shots, it's a completely different series. But the way I see it going, Giannis is going to be shooting about 30% from 3, so nothing too crazy. It's not going to be a 6-game series. Giannis is going to be driving. He's still going to be getting his points, but when he kicks, those players, I think, are going to be hitting their shots to a decent degree. Knock them down a little bit from their current season form, because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The way George Hill is shooting, the way Chris Middleton is shooting, but that's enough, I think, to take them just over the line. And That's just my opinion. Hopefully you understand that. Bucks in 7 over the Toronto Raptors, but it's a close series. Again, 60-40 for me that the Bucks win this series. It is a tight series. The Raptors have the experience in these sort of circumstances, but the Bucks are going to have learned from the mistakes they made last season, and they have that experience that they can thrive off of. You know, that loss, nothing really motivates you like losing to a team and going out and trying to prove yourself next season. But that will end this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, we are putting out a ton of Raptors content on the channel. It's going to continue. I've noticed that, you know, people really liking the Raptors content. I really enjoy making the Raptors content. You know, I see all of you out there showing the support. You know, I truly appreciate all the support coming to the channel lately. Hopefully it continues on forward. But again, end of the video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you liked the video and you want more content just like this as well. Hit that notification bell to stay up to date with the 4 videos we post a week. We will see you tomorrow for Saturday's upload. At the end of the day, I believe what I say, and if you disagree, that's okay. We'll see you again next time.